This is a reading from Whispers from Eternity, a book of prayer demands by Paramahansa Yogananda. Number 54, tune us that we may hear thy voice. Volumes of thy Savior voice resound through the loudspeaker of every loving heart. The voice of thy wisdom roams through the ether of space, seeking everywhere hearts that are tuned to ecstasy. Sadly, thy warning sermons pass unheard by souls deafened with the static of sense pleasures. O divine broadcaster, tune our souls, long distracted by the static of our indifference. Fine-tune us with the delicate touch of soul perception. Grant us the privilege of hearing thy magic melodies in the ecstasy of divine awakening. In the introduction to the essence of the Bhagavad Gita that Swami Kriyananda wrote, he speaks very directly and at length about what is truth. It's because the title of this is Truth Democratic. No, yeah, is that right? How democratic is truth? Thank you. Yeah, and Swamiji writes so beautifully. It's the truth, and it's very simple, but it's beautifully poetic. But this is very profound. He actually says in there, truth is exact correspondence with reality. And still I think, well, what really does that mean? Because that's what we're talking about. Is truth democratic? We're talking about sharing the truth. And yet it's hard for us to know exactly what that means. Why, as Krishna says, would we not share it with people who have these certain or other qualities or a lack of qualities? Why did Jesus make that incredible statement? I mean, talking about swine, and lest they trample you and turn around and rend you again. It's a very powerful, he doesn't use the word trample, I did, but there's some word like that. It's a very powerful statement that Jesus makes. And Krishna, who always does it so much more gently and with compassion and always with a sense of hope, and don't worry, you'll get there. But nonetheless, same truth, very, very powerful. And when Swamiji speaks about this, he says, there are many paths to truth, but they all start at the same point and radiate outward, and eventually, like little streams or creeks, they'll come back and they'll all come to this same river. And that river is a river of energy. When we're speaking about truth and we're speaking about souls, that river is the river of energy in our spine. So that is what truth is and where truth is. That's what we are aiming for, all of us. But again, we could say, what does that mean? The truth resides in our astral spine. In his chapter on spiritual anatomy in the Raja Yoga book, Swamiji speaks about right attitude so beautifully. And I've been sharing this a lot recently because he says nobody can even venture onto the spiritual path without right attitude. You would never be drawn there. But once you're drawn there, it's right attitude that keeps creating this centrifugal force that draws us into the spine. But here's the caution that he gives, which I think relates to this reading so beautifully. He says, if people do not have right attitude, and to him that means courage, seeing God in everyone, positive thinking. It means all of those great soul qualities that would draw us onto the path. If we don't have those, and if we don't know where we're headed, then we can begin to free up energy, enormous energy, that's locked at the base of our energetic spine, and it doesn't know where to go. It just starts probably randomly heading out. We've awakened all of this energy, but we don't yet have the ability to guide it, to direct it. We don't know how to seek teachers, seek satsang, all of the things that bring us with this energy. We use this energy to become more calm, more peaceful, more uplifted, more focused on God. We learn about seva, we give, because Krishna says in here, if people do not have their hearts open to devotion, if they're not people who have the inclination to serve, and he says more, but this is what happens when this river of energy is well guided, and when it's not, the energy just gets scattered. So Jesus and Krishna and other teachers aren't just saying for no reason. And Swamiji gives us some of them. He talks about how we can increase resistance in people, how we can turn them against the teachings completely, how they'll get stronger in their arguments if we try and convince them of truth. But truth is never a philosophical discourse. It's never an intellectual argument. That's why Swamiji says here, truth is exact correspondence with reality. Truth is eternal. Truth is inarguable. But if you don't know that, it creates danger, and it creates danger for the soul because the energy is misdirected. I'm sharing this because to me it takes us back to the very essence of what we're doing as we're trying to move more deeply onto the path. We are trying to awaken that energy, which of course is called Kundalini. Huge amount of energy locked at the base of our spine. And we want to free it, but we need to be careful, even all of us, because maybe some of us have discovered truth, or maybe most of us have discovered that we're on the path to truth. We know that, which is really wonderful, but we're used to these teachings. We hear them all the time. We study them, we sing them. I mean, even this chant that was sung earlier today that we don't hear very often, I'm determined not to play. It's sort of, what would those words mean to anybody else? They don't mean anything. Who understands? That means we're determined not to get lost in play. We're going to come in. We're seriously following this path. In other words, we're speaking a language that to us makes so much sense. We're hungry for it. It's what we want. But we have to be very thoughtful, not secrecy, as Swamiji says in the end there, but thoughtful and mindful about what we're sharing, when we're sharing it, and not just use our enthusiasm to go out. And it's very easy to do. I remember years ago, there was a friend of mine, actually a very good friend and a very wise person, who I was having trouble with something that was going on in our community, in fact. And my friend came over and started telling me why I had to do what I was doing differently, why I had to think differently about it, and saying to me, you know this is absurd, just get over it. You know all of this on the path. It was sort of like, Shanti, just quit what you're doing and do this. And I felt not helped. I felt bullied. And I told her that because I knew what she was saying. I could have quoted what she was saying, but I was not in a position to live that teaching at that moment, and hearing it over and over again wasn't helpful. Each of us, and I think this is the positive, self-accepting, hopeful part of it. We're all on the same path. We are all going the same place. We're all going to enter this river of truth. But each and every one of us has to do it, and I'm putting the emphasis there, in our own way and in our own time. And we have to, because the ability to find the truth resides in our spines, and our astral spines, not our anatomical spine. And each and every one of us is absolutely different. And we have to lovingly, for ourselves, pay attention to that, to be able to know, when am I going to be able to make this progress? How should I make it? What's the most helpful for me? Where will I seek guidance? Who are those souls who can offer me truth, the next little bit, so that I can take it and digest it and grow with it? And although this reading is to us who are on the path, we need to keep this in mind always, because often we really do think, I'll speak for myself because I do, if I just say it again, or if I speak a little more loudly, they're going to get it. It's hard to get that when we're trying to share some of these truths that are very deep. It's like speaking different languages. I had a client come in to see me the other day. I do a little bit of coaching. A wonderful woman. From the minute I met this woman, I knew she was smart, she was funny, very courageous, no spiritual path, none, which is challenging, like really not sharing the same language. But I've seen her a few times now. What she wants to do with herself, the changes that she wants to make. Somebody comes in and says, I've been working on this a long time. I do not need to hear what the problem is. I know the problem. I'll tell you the problem. I'm really looking for a solution. Can you help me? Yes, I said, I think I can. But we're not allowed to talk about the teachings the way we talk about the teachings, because she doesn't like it. But in the middle of a session, I made a big mistake, a big mistake. I said something like, I live with the understanding that everything that comes to us for a reason. And this person has really serious, very real issues, both physical and psychological. And she was up out of her chair screaming at me. And I thought to myself, she's right. I went too far for where she is. It's one of two main questions that come to me all the time. I'm sure many of you hear it too. This one is, and I've said it here before, how can I change my partner? How can I show my children, my parents, my friends, the truth? How can I teach them? There's only one answer to that. One answer. That is, live the teachings. Because it's not philosophical, it's not intellectual. They will get angry with you, and they will not change. If you truly care about people, all people, you live the teachings, because love, compassion, joy, anything that's uplifting, that is a universal language. Other than people who are just completely too depressed or too dark to even feel that. That's not the majority of people, though, but they just have to live that out. We're all making as much spiritual progress as we can. We need to just be who we would like to see in the world. And then people are drawn and they want more. And very often, without knowing it, I think last time I spoke here, I told the story of a friend who heard music in a house when I was helping him clean a house. He does not want to hear anything, quote unquote, spiritual. But this is Swami Kriyananda's instrumental music playing. And he's cleaning and cleaning. He goes, what is that music? It's helping me clean so much more and better. I said, yeah, that's all the music my teacher wrote. And this woman who's so lovely and fabulous, after this session where she was letting me have it, interestingly, I said to her, I'm sorry, I really think I made a mistake. She said to me, you didn't make a mistake. It just touched something in me. Let me work it out. It was very sweet. That was like the best response because she was beyond me. But in that moment, she could grasp even that which was so hard to hear. For us, we hear it all the time. But to tell somebody everything that comes to us comes for a reason, it's just the most common things for us. And I think we need to hold this in our minds. Our parents, our children, other friends in the world, they're not hearing this like this. And we need to be very compassionate about it. She walked out of seeing me, walks into our booking gift shop, and says, this is so beautiful. I want to buy everything. And that music that's playing, literally just a couple of days ago, energy and vibration, because really what we're trying to do is to draw our own energy into that ultimate river where all of the subsidiaries, even on the spiritual path, even the way that we could come onto this path, Swamiji tells us, he says, even though there are 3 paths to welcome all souls back, there's karma yogis, bhakti yogis, and jnana yogis. So wherever your inclination is, whatever you came in with, you can step onto the path and practice that way. But in the end, we're all going to become one, because that's where real truth resides. There's no other way to experience that truth that actually exists, because it's the manifestation of that ultimate, loving, compassionate, superconscious presence. And it's in every atom, smaller than atoms, of existence. All of it's there. But it's very hard for us to know that till we bring it all together. And then we don't have to talk about it. We've probably all had those moments. We know the truth. And they're beautiful moments. I wanted to share a little bit today about a movie that I've mentioned in here before, a documentary really called The Saint of 9/11. I watched it again last night because his name is Father Michael Judge, and he kept coming to me as I was reading and rereading this teaching, because this man was the embodiment, as was Swamiji, as was Master, of course. I mean, we have our own great saints, but there are others of love, unconditional sharing, never preaching to anybody, never using words to try and change their minds, ever, because it's so hard to change your mind. It's so hard. It's much easier when the inspiration comes from the inside out. He was a Franciscan monk. I don't know how many of you have watched this now. Beautiful soul who, during the AIDS epidemic, decided that he had to live in New York where he could help the most people, he felt. He was in New Jersey. He didn't think he was doing enough there. So he asked for a transfer to New York, and there's 2 stories that I want to tell you about him, but he learns about the AIDS epidemic. He himself is gay, and he's put that out into the world. Of course, living a life in God. He's not living a life out in the world, but he came into this world as a gay man. So he hears about it. He knew nothing about AIDS. It was in the early days of AIDS. And in those early days, and I lived through it, I was in my medical training then. We were masked, we wore hoods, we were gloved, we were gowned. And one of the women who's being interviewed tells of stories that here would be this person so sick. These people were so sick, and they were completely isolated, like lepers. Nobody would touch them. A door would open, the woman in this documentary says, and somebody would push a tray in with food and leave. I mean, they were treated like lepers. And at the same time, the Catholic Church was laying down laws against gay people being able to come into the church. And I don't know exactly what, but they were not welcome in the Catholic Church. It was absolutely clear from the top down. And all of these Catholic, mostly men, were so isolated and in so much pain. And when Father Michael heard about it, the first thing he did is he went into this hospital. He heard of one man in particular. And he went into the room. He didn't put on gloves. He didn't say a word to the man. He's in his, with his collar and his brown gown and sandals, looks like a Franciscan monk. And he goes in there and he just walks over to the man and takes his hands and he kisses him. He kisses him like St. Francis would kiss somebody. And that man just began transforming. And then Michael he started making this his work. And I just share a story. Most of the men did not want to see him. They were terrified because they were being lectured. They were being told what is right, how they needed to be. And he never used words, but they didn't want him even in the room. Then he said, I realized I had to find a different way in. He got holy oil. He took it into the room, and before he said a word, he would massage their feet with the oil. That was the first way they met him, with his love, with his heart wide open, touching them, caring about them. And then they were able to receive him and receive all of the love. And he prayed with these people, and he spoke to them about how much God loved them. And they were transformed, not by any of the talks, but by the words that he used. When TWA plane crashed in 1996, just in New York City, and over one of the rivers, not the most recent thing that happened, but this was a big TWA flight. On this flight, everybody died. And all of the families came, and they were put in hotels, and they stayed there for a month while they were looking for bodies. And when Father Michael heard of it, he went to the site, to this hotel, and he came every single day. And he just held people, and he talked to people, and he said, I am getting so much through your courage, through your love that you're here with for your families. He told them what he was getting. And he came every day, and the people said, he said a mass every day, twice a day. They said everybody came to mass. Of course, this was a lot of Catholics there, and it meant a great deal to them. But they said every Jewish person there came, every Muslim came, because they loved being near him. Because truth is one and eternal. Because it's about realizing the oneness within us. And he found a way to be with people of all faiths, all the time, all diseases, all problems, and help them open their hearts and feel devotion and he helped them all serve. He took street people and he said to them, you don't live here. And he would find ways to get them serving. If you watch this documentary, you'll see he saved their lives. He helped them become the people that Krishna is saying, if they're not serving, don't speak to them. He got them serving. If there's no devotion, don't try and tell them the truth. He opened their hearts. He allowed them to feel the truth and know it beyond words. I'd like to close just by reading something that he said at the final closing ceremony of this TWA flight. I just want to, anyway, I'm sure you're following the flow of this. It's because it's out here with Father Michael, but it really is about how we share the truth, when we share the truth, what is really compassionate, loving, God sharing, and what isn't, what's actually going to reach people, and what's egoic on our part. It doesn't always look that way. It's not always to see, but it's a very important point because people will change. They can feel Master and Swamiji coming through us if we learn these things, if we feel these things, if we see everybody as the divine, if that's what we're serving in them. There are many, many ways to do it. I just want to read what he said. He was first talking to these people, and he's telling the people first, you've given so many around the world courage and strength by your perseverance and your love. I have been a recipient of your goodness, your faith, your love. My life, like yours, has been changed. He's speaking to the families, all of the people on the plane who were just killed. I'm grateful for the gift and the change. This is truth. He is speaking truth, but with so much heart that it's digestible. Then he says to them, God is present, loving, smiling, having received our loved ones. They are in his presence, illumined by his smile and warmed by his love. His kingdom is enriched this day, so enriched by so many beautiful souls, so many beautiful souls. Our world is so empty without them. Our hearts are broken, our sadness immense, our tears abundant. We live our sorrow together. We need you, God. Please come and touch us with courage, calm our discomfort, give us signs of your presence. We ask you, we beg you, come. Now that's the teachings. That's sharing truth in every word. That is beautiful. And those people said, one after another, of all faiths, of all religions, we needed him. He came every day, and we ran to him. He taught us faith. He opened our hearts. He taught us everything we needed to know to go on, not just live without the people we lost, but to become better, larger, to learn how to love others through the example of this great soul. So that's what's being asked of us, to get out of our heads and move into our hearts and love and serve and find God and be everything that Krishna is talking about. We do it first, other people feel it. That's how change happens, that's how love happens, that's how truth is found.
If you're seeking freedom in a revolution, oh, if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there. For once the guns start blazing, you'll find it amazing how sunny, you'll be counting money, keeping up that showcase, your face lined with care. And if you're seeking freedom on a throne of power, oh, if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there. For though when all obey you, what if they betray you? Tense you'll be and waiting for foes everywhere. But if you're seeking freedom, cast away desires, why barter like a beggar, you've wealth everywhere. For never can you buy it, grasp and you'll deny it. Freedom can't be hoarded, it's free as the air. And if you're seeking freedom, seek it on the mountains. Got sunlight on your shoulders, the wind in your hair. For there's no one can hold you, boss about or mold you. Once your heart is free, you'll be king everywhere. For there's no one can